Hi, my name's Captain Ed Monette from Cannonball Runner Charters. So I was asked to do some seminars this winter, and unfortunately I couldn't do them because we're going to be in Florida for the winter. So Rocky had asked me from Akuma and from Gibbs about some seminars about fishing with stingers. So first of all, stingers are what we use. So I mean, let's get that right out in the open. Everybody asks us, do you use what you are saying that you use? Do you use what who your sponsors are? Yes, that's all we do. So, but fishing with Michigan stingers, it also is a complete setup. So right off the bat, we are going to set up with, we use white diamond rods. They're 7'6", medium light action. We use cold water reels, all line counters. We end up starting out with backing about 1,500 feet of Berkeley big game. We're going to lead her down to our Seeger fluorocarbon. Early in the spring, it's going to be 6-pound test. A little bit later, it's going to be 8-pound test. We use our torpedo swivels because we want the small, strongest swivels that we can get. That being said, as much of what we use helps with everything that is going on with our stingers. We don't mix and match a lot of rods. We don't mix and match different reels, so everything is the same for us. Repeat, repeat, repeat. So, that being said, there's different conditions that we fish in to start the spring off. And right off the bat, I want everybody to know we use big boards. So, I know guys use little boards. We prefer big boards. We run a lot of lines. We run them way out from the boat. Believe me, I get told about that on a regular basis. But that's what we do that worked for us to catch fish. A lot of people complain about stuff, but maybe sometimes they should look at what's actually working for people. Maybe they could understand why you're doing something. That being said, there's different conditions that we are going to be fishing in. The first condition that we're going to talk about is February and March. If you're fortunate enough to get out in the lake in February and March, Michigan stingers, most of your fish is going to be really shallow. You want to make sure that you're keeping your lines up off the bottom. But that being said, you shouldn't have any problem catching fish. That time of year, fish are going to hit just about anything you put out there. Conditions. So February, March, get out with your little 12-foot rowboat, grab a bunch of your Michigan stingers, and we're talking stinger size now. You want a little bit of flash. These fish haven't seen nothing all year, so they're not going to be real boat shy. You can catch them close to the boat at that time of year because there's no boat traffic. They kind of forgot about boat traffic. It's been 5-6 months, so that's condition number one. So condition number two. This is where things start getting interesting. This actually separates the men from the boys. This is going to be, because it's early in the year, you're going to get a lot of clear water. So the clear water, you're getting more boat traffic. The water's still cold. in this time of year we're talking about is going to be, um, you know, your late March, early April. You're going to want to lead her down the 6-pound test. You're going to want to use what I call natural lures, but there are also dull lures. You don't want to use the new ones that you just got. They're a little too shiny for this time of year. You want your old, beat up, reliable lures. I tell people this. I've said this in other videos that I've done. It's not normal for a fish to see a minnow coming 200 yards away or 150 feet away. That's not normal, and that's going to raise a red flag. You're starting to get a little bit more boat traffic. This is where I really think that the bigger boards come into play. Yes, you can get your little boards out further, but once you get a little bit of choppy water, your little boards are kind of digging underneath the waves a little bit. Where we use the otter boats. Otter boats, look, we're out there, you can go out there in 4-footers, and we're still running 10 lines, 5 off each side. So, everybody has a preference, everybody has a price point, but this is kind of pretty much what we're going to do. Now, a lot of your natural colors we're talking about is going to be your tuxedos, your green edge, your purple edge. Like I said, all this stuff is kind of dull is what you want to look at. So the third condition that we're going to talk about, this is when it's fun. This is when you get dirty water. Dirty water, now you're going to go out there with your Michigan Stingers, and you can use a lot of the high profile colored ones. Your dirty water is where you can use your like Detroit Tigers, where you might have the orange stripe, or you can use your I Can't Afford It. You can use and even then, like, we write across it in black marker, so it dulls it down a little bit for us. So you can use your NBKs, you can use your mongooses, your circus freaks. You can use those kind of stuff in that type of condition. Now, again, we're still all using the stinger size. This usually occurs after a storm. You're getting 4-footers crashing the shoreline, mixes up the mud, the rivers are overflowing. That's, like I said, that's when it's fun. That's when you go out there and pretty much anything with color, as long as you got your speed right. So the next condition is condition number 4. Condition number 4 is when the water starts warming up a lot. Now this is my second favorite time of year. This is when you really catch the big boys coming. This is in June and July. This is where you're in a transition period where you're using stingers, but you're also using some stingrays. Now, these fish are also lazy. This is also when you come in and you're going to start using a lot of lead cores. We use lead cores earlier in the year, but really now lead cores are really going to start being the majority of them. At this time of year, we might not even have mono in the water. So what we do is we use stealth core, and our stealth core goes down to, we'll leader it down still to 6 or 8 pound test, depending on the clarity of the water. And we'll have an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 10 colors of lead core. Like I said, this is when it's really starting to get good. You're going to have a lot bigger fish. Now, you're not going to get so many of those cookie cutters. They're a little bit smarter. They're a little bit wearier. They're a little bit lazier. So you're going to have to concentrate on what speed is for your boat to catch these bigger fish. And so when people ask us, most of the time people are asking you, is what's your favorite lure? Look, it doesn't matter what the favorite lure is. It's that day getting a color pattern. The color pattern that day on a Michigan Stinger could vary. Every day it can vary. It can vary from port to port. The water clarity might not be as dirty down in Sodus as it is in Oswego, or vice versa. What's happening down in Sodus, what's happening in Mexico Bay, may not be the same thing that's happening where you're fishing. So I do a lot of experimentation with colors. Said we run a lot of lines. A typical day that we're out fishing, we're going to have 10 lines off our boards. We're also going to have 2 slide divers or dipsy divers, depending on the depth of the fish. And we're going to have, if we're brown trout fishing, 3 riggers in the water. If we're salmon fishing, we'll have 5 riggers in the water with that same spread. What you can do with colors is the color changes from the depth of the water. So a frog circus freak is a lot brighter closer to the surface than it is, say, 35, 45, 55 feet down. When you're fishing in June and July, one of the biggest things that we're going to do is let the fish tell us what bait do they want. Do they want a stingray? Do they want a stinger? That's going to be the big key. We use scorpions seldom. The reason is seldom is I cover a lot of water. So when we're covering a lot of water, we need something that can be a lot more speed tolerant. Speed tolerant is where you're looking at. I got a question that came in the other day wanting to know, do we tweak them? Do we bend them? We do. We bend them a little bit. But you got to be careful if you try to bend them a little bit, because if you bend them a little bit, you bend them too much, then you're going to start creating line twist. But the biggest key is with running stingers is you have to pay attention to your boat speed. Everybody has something different. Some people are using a fish hawk, some people still use moors, some people are using GPS speed. Springtime, I use more GPS speed. When I'm talking springtime, I'm talking March and April, that time frame, I'm using more GPS speed. The fish are shallower, I'm kind of paying a lot more attention to that. Plus, I don't want to hang up and lose a probe off the bottom if you're fishing 12 foot of water. That being said, stingers are very tolerant. We will run them from 1.8 to 3.1. You need to find what is happening that day. That could happen on a turn. You could be turning and all of a sudden you're not doing much and you're saying, you know what, I marked a lot of fish back there and I'm going back. You make the turn and all of a sudden one line drops and all of a sudden bingo. You got a hit, or you catch a fish, or the outside board takes off because you're turning, picked up speed. Those are all stuff that you need to pay attention with. The one good thing about the stingers are they're a lure that if you're running them and you think that that lure is 4 foot down or 8 foot down, that's how far that lure is down, whether you're using lead core, whether you're using mono. I'm hoping that this helps people out with the brown trout fishing and stingers. People can reach out to me if they want. I can help them with where they're fishing, with lure colors or whatever. But really, I mean, lure colors are gonna. You probably already know that in whatever port that you're fishing. The key is you have to adjust your speed and keep your speed. You want to see that perfect wiggle in the water. It's hard to explain what that wiggle is. The only thing I can say to you about that wiggle is you have to watch it. It's kind of like if you fish cut bait. You know the wiggle that you're looking for. That comes with time. That comes with time on the water. We really enjoy our spring fishing and brown trout fishing. Yeah, we like catching salmon. We're not going to say we don't. But I'll be honest with you, I really prefer brown trout fishing. I really like brown trout fishing because it's an art. It's an art that I'm hoping this helps you, but it's an art that not everybody is inclined to catch him on a regular basis. It's an art that there's few guys on the lake that perfect it because it's a big part of our fishery here on the east end of the lake. And the biggest factor on this end of the lake for us, Michigan stingers from Gibbs Delta. I'm hoping that helps you. Give me your feedback. Let me know. If you have any questions about what speed that you should be running, I could try to help you out, but let me know.